Former President Jacob Zuma's appeal case is heading back to the Pietermaritzburg High Court today to yet again challenge another court ruling against him. He's expected to apply for leave to appeal Judge Piet Koen's dismissal of his special plea to have advocate Billy Downer removed as prosecutor in his trial. Koen made the ruling in October last year and set down the 11th of April this year as the trial date. In dismissing Zuma's special plea, Judge Koen ruled that Zuma's arguments were mainly based on fair trial rights, which could be determined in a separate application, and other evidence was laid in the criminal trial. He also rejected the arguments by Zuma that Downer was guilty of misconduct in leaking information to the media. Earlier, Zuma Foundation spokesperson Mzwanele Manyi indicated that they might appeal the court's ruling dismissing their assertion that Advocate Downer had leaked information on Zuma's medical condition to the media. Our colleagues Ayanda Mhlongo and Pietermaritzburg are at the High Court in Pietermaritzburg this morning, monitoring that story for us, and we cross live to them now. We start with you, Ayanda. Set the scene for us, please.
Very good morning to Desiree and good morning to our viewers. Yes, we are back, Desiree, at the Pietermaritzburg High Court. It is going to be a hot day, it seems, but as you can hear the singing and chanting behind us, the supporters of the former president have gathered here outside the Pietermaritzburg High Court as usual to show their support for the former president, clearly not deterred by the heat. We can also tell our viewers at this point, Desiree, that former President Jacob Zuma has arrived at the court and is currently in a holding room. We expect proceedings to get underway at 9:30. Now, before we discuss what is likely to happen inside the court, as I was saying, it's always a hub of a buzz of activity outside the court. And the last time that we were here, there were no supporters of the former president. So 2022, this is the first time that he's appeared this year, and this is after some time that we are seeing his supporters. Still a small crowd at the moment, but we are told that buses are coming through, some from other provinces to come and show their support, as always, for the former president. And in anticipation, but we still don't know at this point whether or not, as has been in the past, whether once the court proceedings have been done with, whether or not the former president is then going to come across here to the market square to address his supporters. And that is when we get an opportunity to hear how he feels about the court proceedings and how he intends to move forward with the court case. But let me bring, as you said, Desiree, I'm not alone today. As always, I'm with my colleague Pietermaritzburg, who was inside the courtroom a short while ago and saw former President Jacob Zuma arriving here at the court. So we'll start with that. Former president has arrived. The last time that we were in court last year, he looked a bit frail when he came to court. How was he this time?
Ayanda, a short while ago, as you said, that the former president making his way inside the court premises. But what is of importance to note is the fact that when members of the media greeted him, he simply waved today. But in the previous court appearances, he would say hi as well. But just today, he was certainly not in the mood to talk, I suppose. And his lawyers have got that task of talking for him when the court resumes this morning.
I saw his daughter, Dudu Zile. I also saw the former SAA board chair, Dudu Miene, amongst all the close family and close supporters of the former president entering court. Anyone else besides them that you've seen?
Indeed, Ayanda, Dudu Miene, as well as his daughter, Dudu Zile Sambula, making their way as well inside court. It's the usual people who normally see, supporting the former president. I'm talking about the likes of Carl Niehaus. I'm talking about the former premier of the Northwest, that's Supra Mahumapilo. He's just made his way inside court, as well as the former Kokta minister, that's Mr. Des van Rooyen, making his way as well inside the court. But obviously, over and above that, we have not seen the provincial leaders inside court here. We believe also that some of them may be coming, to actually be representing the provincial ANC, as it has been the case in previous court appearances.
Yeah, indeed. I suppose it is going to be interesting as well when you look at the dynamics that are playing out politically in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. It's often said that as much as this is a court case, but this also is an opportunity for the leaders of the ANC to meet together, come together. Sort of interesting to see, particularly from the province of KwaZulu-Natal, who comes out here today to show their support for the former president. It has been a matter that the ANC has struggled with in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and their presence here has always been to try and maintain the good relations with the former president. We've seen some of them being booed here as well. A difficult situation, if I put it that way, for them.
A very tricky one, Ayanda, because if you talk about the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, one would say you cannot disregard the issue of the former president, because when these divisions occur, they usually center around him. It's people who feel that he has been betrayed by the current leadership of the ANC, as well as those that perhaps feel that, the current leadership of the ANC cannot do anything about what the former president is going through in terms of the legal, issues. But as you rightfully put it, the ANC in the province is going to be heading towards a very crucial time. Regional conferences are coming up, as well as the provincial conference as well. So we've already seen in the media space, a couple of names being, thrown around in terms of who is going to be contesting that very crucial position of the provincial chairperson of the ANC.
All right, Simpiwe, thanks for your time. Of course, we'll be monitoring, and I know you'll be catching up with the leaders of the ANC as they come through, and of course, any other of the supporters of the former president. Let me allow my colleague Simpiwe to rush into court. As we said, Desiree, that at 9:30 the proceedings are expected to get underway, and all members of the media have been instructed to be inside the court and ready for those proceedings to get underway. We've spoken about what is happening outside the court building. Let me also, Desiree, also mention, of course, that as always, heavy police presence. This road just outside the court has been cordoned off, and we see a large deployment of police officers that are here to ensure that all goes off without any hindrances. All right, to go into what we can expect inside court, I'm now joined by our legal expert, Mpumelelo Zigalala. Thank you so much for agreeing to chat with us, Mpumelelo. We've heard from former President Jacob Zuma's foundation through Mr. Mzwanele Mani that they intend to bring this a leave to appeal Judge Pete Koen's a judgment where he dismissed former President Jacob Zuma's application for the state prosecutor in his corruption trial, Advocate Billy Downer, to recuse himself. Very interesting, and I take it back to the previous conversation that we held with you when we were here. The question of timing, it seems to have come up in Judge Koen's judgment, where he spoke about the timing of this application. Again, the state has raised it, saying that the former president now has no right to bring this application to challenge the judge's decision. Let's go back and tell us, our viewers, the timing. They're saying that he should have, in fact, have brought the application for Advocate Downer to recuse himself during the trial or at the end of his criminal trial.
I think on the timing aspect, you have to look at it this way. Once a person has pleaded, saying that I'm guilty or I'm not guilty, and there are certain incidents or events which are going to take place once the trial is started. You can't say, oh, I'm sorry, you're going to start the trial de novo because of the inadequacies of the NBA. We are basically acquitted on a technicality. So the timing of that was very important, especially for the former president, in terms of saying, let me plead, so that when I ask for these type of things and the recusals and applications that I make, they are going to have the effect, if they are granted, I'll be acquitted. But there's another aspect linked to that one. If a decision comes out today saying that your application is approved, then it basically means the end of this particular matter. That has an impact of saying the decisions in this matter can bring about finality, which is one of the requirements that you need in order to appeal a certain decision of a lower court. Let's remember the Criminal Procedure Act is king when it comes to these type of matters. Section 319 tells us when the matter should be reviewed and should be appealed, but it's a bit silent as to, in this type of situations, let's call it a trial within a trial. Is it these type of instances appealable or not? And the arguments in which the former president lawyers are going to raise, they're going to say it can bring about finality. We need finality in this matter. If you continue with the prosecutor that we deem not to be fit to prosecute, we are going to bring about a mistrial. Rather dispose of all these issues now, so that at the end of the day, when we deal with the merits of the trial, we are all set home and clear, and we don't have any issues that can come back to bite us at a later stage.
The state, as we understand, is going to be arguing that he has no right to bring now this leave to appeal the court's ruling, saying that it should be he should bring that application at the end of the trial. He, in his papers and his heads of argument, says, and he quotes a section of the Criminal Procedure Act where he says every accused has the right to appeal. Explain it to me. Why then would the state feel that he has no right to bring this application now for leave to appeal and should bring it at the end of the trial?
Ordinarily, the right to appeal would come in after you've been pronounced as guilty or not guilty. In criminal cases, it would be guilty, in which then the accused would say, I believe that the court looks at the incorrect facts, or the fact that you omitted, or there was wrong law that was used, or they looked at the incorrect provisions in terms of our legal principles. So that's ordinarily when, or the opportune time would come in for one to appeal. Now here, you want to appeal a decision, an interim decision, in which is not final in nature or in the broader perspective. However, from the side of the former president, he says, yes, it is final. Because if you allow Advocate Billy Downer to continue to prosecute me, I'm going to have problems at a later stage. And it's going to bring the mootness of this particular matter at a later stage if I don't appeal it at this point. So I don't have any other provision to go to or any other forum to go to except to go to the SCA and the Con Court if it needs be. But let's also look at the precedent that has been set previously and look at the leading case when it comes to the charge to prosecute, which is the Porret case. Facts or circumstances similar to this one. It's just that the manner in which all the conduct of the prosecutor was regarded was sort of in a narrow sense. In this case, the former president is saying, let's broaden the definition. Let's look at the conduct of the prosecutor and say, due to your conduct, you can't prosecute me. You are too involved in the matter. You have lost your sight of being objective, and you have moved into the realm of saying you want to find me guilty at all costs. Certainly my rights in terms of Section 35 are being infringed. Of most importance in what the former president probably would say inside court, please protect my Section 35 rights. They are super important. I don't want them to be infringed at any stage of these proceedings, even if it means you allow me to go to the SCA and the Con Court before we start in dealing with the main or the first witness in this main trial.
Just in terms of what we can expect today, just to explain to our viewers, is bringing it before the judge, this application, before Judge Piet Koen, who dismissed his initial application to seek the recusal of State Prosecutor Advocate Billy Downer. What is likely going to happen? Would a judge grant him this application for leave to appeal? If again he's not given that opportunity, or his application now to appeal that judgment is dismissed, can he then petition the Supreme Court of Appeal? Definitely he can. If today's application is dismissed, he'll then say, I'm going to move on to your Leonard brothers and sisters in the SCA and persuade them and say, your Leonard brother in the KZN Provincial Division, they've denied me access to come to you. I believe that I have a case that has merits. There are certain facts which were not considered. Also in a question of law, there are certain things which were not considered. Let's also look at how much, or the smaller amounts of cases that have dealt with this matter before. Certainly deserves that I at least be given an ear, so that you are able to come to a correct decision. So there are basically more steps that you can traverse.
if indeed the former president fails in his bid to appeal his decision today.
Mr. Mpumelelo Zagalala, appreciate your time. I know you're still going to be with us throughout the day. Still a lot more to talk about. There is an application, we understand, or additional evidence that the former president wants to bring to the court today. We'll discuss that a little bit later as we continue and you assist us to unpack this court case and the proceedings. I'm just seeing now on the side of my eye the spokesperson for the National Prosecuting Authority, and before the court starts, Desiree, just allow me to very quickly bring in now Advocate Mthunzi Mhaga, spokesperson for the NPA. Mr. Mhaga, Advocate Mhaga, appreciate your time this morning.
Good morning, and hoping that the proceedings will go well.
Indeed. Advocate Mhaga, this application that the former president now wants to challenge, of course, the dismissal of his previous application to seek the recusal of State Prosecutor Advocate Billy Downer. You as, let me first start, your position as the state.
Our position is very clear. First of all, this is irregular step that they have taken, in the sense that they should wait until a conviction and a sentence has been confirmed and then apply for an appeal. Because given the fact that they are adopting a piecemeal approach in terms of their approach, we are saying that this is not in the interest of justice, that the judge should be dealing with appeals in piecemeal. They should wait until the matter is concluded. That's when they can come up with an appeal. It's not provided for in the Criminal Procedure Act.
Help me understand this, Advocate Mhaga. He brought the application to seek the recusal of Advocate Billy Downer, and again, you strongly objected to that as the NPA. He's now challenging this judgment, and you are now saying this is not the right time for him to bring this matter. He's then arguing that under the Criminal Procedure Act, he has the right, an accused has the right to appeal a judgment or to appeal a decision that was not favorable to them.
It's provided for that you can appeal a judgment, but it's not provided for that you can appeal a special plea judgment before a conclusion of a matter in the form of a conviction and a sentence. There's no provision to that effect in the Criminal Procedure Act. That's why it would be interesting for them to persuade the judge to that effect. We have a very strong argument against it. However, if the judge feels that he can entertain them, we still maintain that Billy Downer has a title to prosecute. We still maintain that the judgment that ruled against them still stands. This matter was ventilated in the Supreme Court of Appeal and in court by the full bench as well, to say that the issues of political interference that they dealt with, they were pronounced upon by those courts, and therefore there's no need for this court to even hear those arguments again. And luckily for us, those arguments were dismissed correctly so.
And again, you've even mentioned the last time, Advocate Mhaga, that some of the arguments that he raised now were those that he raised in his application for permanent stay of prosecution, where he cited pre-trial irregularities, the delays in the trial, but also political interference. And we're seeing that again being brought forward here and amongst the arguments that he made for the recusal of Advocate Downer.
True that, because remember that they had to prove that the political interference and Mr. Downer's bias or impartiality in the matter has a bearing on the fairness of the trial of Mr. Zuma, and they could not establish or prove that, hence the dismissal of their application.
Of course, we know that in October, he then opened a criminal case against Advocate Downer. And the last time we spoke to you, Advocate Mhaga, you said that the matter was still being discussed by the head of the NPA in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Where are we on what is likely to happen with that matter, the case that he opened now?
That matter is still under consideration, and a decision will be made soon. And once a decision is made, we will take it from there.
And we also understand that from former President Jacob Zuma's defense, and we hear this from the spokesperson of the foundation, Mr. Mzwanele Mane, that they're going to be bringing this challenge or this application here to court today in 3 parts. But interestingly, one is that they seek to bring new information, a new affidavit that speaks to the the argument or the accusation that he made against Advocate Billy Downer that he leaked sensitive information regarding his medical report. What do you make of that? This new information or affidavit that he wants to submit now?
There's nothing new in this. The allegation of a leaking of a document was there, and the judge clearly ventilated that matter. And therefore, I don't see why it's then resurfaces now. But we will deal with that. We'll oppose it vigorously, and we'll deal with that. And the judge will rule in our favor because we don't see prospects of success on appeal. No court different to this one can arrive at a different decision. That's why we are mounting a position against the arguments.
Let's just remind our viewers, in April, that is the date that was set by the court for the criminal trial to begin. You have always maintained as the NPA that you are ready. In fact, you have over 200 witnesses that you have lined up. So come April, the state is ready to continue with the trial.
On our part as the prosecution, we've always been ready. Were it not for this application that they mounted against Mr. Downer, we would have proceeded to call our first witness. And you'll recall that Minister Patricia Dilia was once here in court ready to take the stand. So on the 11th of April, we are ready to proceed with the matter.
Advocate Mhaga, appreciate your time. Thank you so much, sir. The spokesperson there of the NPA, Advocate Mhaga, must let him go as well now, Desiree, so that he gets inside the court. We've said those proceedings are expected to start at 9:30. We were told that will be in the next 8 minutes or so, if there are no delays. We said earlier on that the former president is here inside court. He arrived a little just before 9 o'clock this morning. Of course, there are also members of his family. His daughter Tutuzile is here to support her father. We've also seen some of the former minister, one of our former ministers is here. The former premier of Limpopo is of the Northwest, I beg your pardon. He is also here, and I saw one of the leaders of the ANC in KZN, Mr. Jacob Zuma, as we were speaking to Advocate Mhaga. Saw him come through. But these are the usual faces, as my colleague Simpiwe Makanya did say to us earlier on, that these are the usual faces. These are the people that have supported the former president since the charges were reinstated against him back in 2018. Let me just turn to see whether or not this crowd has grown. Still not, but we are told that there are buses that are going to be making their way here to the Pietermaritzburg High Court to bring the supporters of the former president. And we're told not only are those supporters coming from KZN, there are supporters coming as far as Mpumalanga and the Northwest, as we've seen there, the former premier of that province arriving here in court. Of course, Desiree, we will be here on the ground. We have my colleague Simpiwe Makanya, who will be on the inside of court monitoring the court proceedings, and I'll be continuously giving our viewers an update of who is here or not here and what happens in terms of the supporters. A heavy police presence here to ensure that there is no incident that might occur outside the Pietermaritzburg High Court. And I must say that inside the court as well, access to the courtroom is quite strict. Members of the media had to get accreditation, and there were also tags that were given. Only a limited number of people that is permitted to be inside the court. Of course, also adhering to the COVID-19 regulations. So as we await the countdown for the proceedings to get underway in just a few minutes' time before the presiding judge, Judge Pete Kon. For now, let me hand things back to you in studio, Desiree.
And of course, as Ayanda was talking about supporters coming through, we were seeing a live footage coming from inside the court building. Carl Niehaus there with Supra Mahumapilu, the former premier of the Northwest, who are constants at these sort of appearings coming through to support the former President Jacob Zuma. Of course, we hope to bring you more as we wait for proceedings to begin.